In my past lifetime, when I used to work on building brands in the entertainment industry, I met a lot of amazing people. And one of those amazing people was Anyiko. Anyiko is not only a publicist, she is the preferred publicist for Coke Studios. She has worked with some of your favorites like KO, aka Yemi Alade in Nigeria, Sauti Sol in Kenya, and so many more artists. She's also the host and a producer of her own podcast called VIP Access, which you can access here on YouTube. In this conversation, I sat with Anyiko to speak about her journey to becoming Africa's most sought-after publicist. We also spoke about her favorite artists to work with, some of the scandals that she's had to clean up, as well as tips on how you can become a successful publicist. If this is something that interests you, I encourage you to sit in and listen on this conversation. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and press the notification bell so that you don't miss any of our videos. Hello, Gentlewoman Tribe, and welcome to another episode of Working Smart and Living Well with myself, Nomdeni. I cannot believe I'm in Kenya. I literally, number one, need a house here. Possibly might move. I love the people. And in a weird way, I think you embody so much of what I have seen of the people of Kenya.
Oh, really?
The calm spirit, the openness. I don't know how to explain it because, you know, everyone who's been to South Africa says South Africans are very nice, but it's different here. It's I don't know, there's a calmness, I think.
I don't know if there's a calmness because like Tanzanians, for instance, say that Kenyans are like,
Really?
yeah, because they're more chill.
Yeah, I've been to
in
Tanzania,
It's a
though.
Swahili thing for Swahili people to be nice and chill.
Yeah.
And even Kenyans are part of the Swahili people. I think we are less chill than the rest of the Swahili people from the side of
Maybe.
Tanzania. But then Kenya, we have this thing that you always have to be warm to guests. So even if you're the worst person, you know you're a bad person, but there's a guest, you have to be nice to them. So it's very rare for someone to know like you're not from here and then they're like mean to you.
No,
you know, people
I've
who want to
been-
be helpful, they'll always tell you,
I've been treated
welcome,
like royalty.
Karibu.
I'm not even gonna lie. I'm just like, I'm moving here and just, I need this treatment all the time. No one must get used to me and start
That's
treating me
nice.
like another Kenyan. But it's been absolutely amazing being here. And I'm so excited to get into our conversation. I think you probably are the number one publicist in the continent. I think so.
Wow.
Who has done it better than you and has grown as far as you
I
have?
don't know. I've never thought about it that way. Like you never think like, oh, am I number one the continent or whatever? But I do know like in Kenya and East Africa, like I'm among the leaders. You know, I have a lot of peers in South Africa, in other countries who I look up to. I look up to Maria McCloy so
Yes,
much. And I
she's
always
so lovely.
say this story because it's very important and dear to my heart. Like I wanted to be a publicist because of Maria.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I also wanted to be a publicist because I saw there was need to be a publicist in Kenya, but I just wanted to be like Maria. Because when I started out with like Sauti Sol, she used to work at MTV. So I used to send videos to her on MTV and she would always respond. And then I started receiving her emails, MTV emails from Maria McCloy. And I was like, wow, I want to do that. Like I want to put out press releases. Like those were the days before I ever wrote a press release. So I wrote to her once and I was like, I like what you do. I would love to be a publicist one day. If I ever come to South Africa, I'm going to meet you, hopefully.
Yeah.
And then I remember she was on, I think, Glamour or True Love magazine, and they featured her house and her jewelry and
you were like,
everything
"This is
about
me."
her. I wanted to be like her, you know, like I want to have all those rings and all those earrings and whatever.
That is so amazing.
And I
I
think-
get it.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think it's very important sometimes to find that person or that thing that you aspire to be, because then that makes it seem
Attainable.
So it was attainable for me to try be a Maria. And so when I came to South Africa for the first time at MTV Awards, I think that was 2016, I reached out and she came and met me. You know, she took me downtown shopping, all the jewelry and stuff, and she took me to her
She's
shop.
so lovely.
And since then, she's just been so open and, you know, just nice, introduced me to so many people. So that's where my first drive to become a publicist came from Maria, you know.
Oh, that's
Had
beautiful.
it not been for the work she's done in essay and that she continues to do, I don't think I'd be sitting here today. So, yeah.
That's so lovely, and I completely get it. Like, now I'm thinking about it, and I'm just like, this makes so much sense. Even the work ethic, the humbleness, and you know, often people attribute humbleness to be a trait that, you know, often you get taken advantage of, but you're not like that, right? You've always been kind to me. You've always been lovely and so nice. But I can see when you get into work mode that there is a switch up that you are able to do when it comes to work and when it comes to being assertive and saying, this is what needs to be done and this is how I need to do it. But I think it's very similar with Maria, where she just has this thing about her where she's just about her business. She's just getting on with her life, exploring the things that she likes, and never needing to conform or become anything that anyone else is.
I love that of Maria. Yeah. You know, never wanting to go with the masses. It's just like, I'm here for the culture and that's that. How she unapologetically supports festivals, you know, unique artists, authentic artists, everything about her was like, I was just like, I want to be like Maria. And I think I ended up finding my space, but she was definitely a very big inspiration, because still continues to be, because I then see how she's transformed her brand to become a designer. She still manages to do some PR stuff here and there when she can. So I would love to also continue growing myself to become more than just a PR, and it's everyday work in progress.
I love the idea, and I think it's one of my motivations when it comes to introducing people to amazing women. It's so refreshing to hear an African woman point out another African woman as their aspiration. You know, so many times our stories are not told, and therefore we are not the examples that, we don't have the examples that we need. But there's so many amazing people in their silos, in their spaces. I met you, and I just think we need more of that. I would love to see a Africa where when you meet someone and you say, who inspires you, and it's another African woman from a different country that they've been following. This has been like the most beautiful introduction to a conversation, because it also just deeply affirms the work that I do. And I'll tell you why I say you're the #1 publicist in Africa. It is longevity for me. You have been in the game for so long, #1.
When I meet some youngins, they're like, oh, you know, I saw you when I was in high school. I'm like, geez.
In the game for so long. The second point, which makes me say you are the #1 publicist in the continent, is how you've been able to do work outside East Africa, and also to be part of this wave, this Africa wave, right? Because I mean, at the beginning, other countries were not playing other countries' music.
No, not at all.
The ability to have moved around as the space evolves, move with your artists, their growth, when they stopped working and then when they coming back to you. I think there's really something special around your commitment to the cultural space in the continent. And I think for me, those are the reasons I pointed you out as the #1 publicist in the continent.
You.
But I want to know, what were your early influences when it comes to where you start to connect the dots, when you think back to how you grew up, where you grew up? Because part of what you do is storytelling, right?
Yes, correct.
It is amplifying these stories, amplifying African culture, music, fashion, food, you know? When you think about your upbringing, where does this passion come from?
It comes from my home, from Molo, where I was born and raised, which is a small town close to a bigger town called Nakuru. So everyone in Kenya knows about Nakuru, but Molo is a little town in the Nakuru County. So growing up in a small town, there was no places to go, no movie cinemas, no big restaurants, no malls and friends to go meet and stuff like that. So you come from school, you go to the house, and you're surrounded by a farm and animals. What do you really do? So my family used to own video library business, and those were back in the day when we didn't even have the DVDs.
Yes.
We still had
VHS.
the cassettes. Yeah, right? And so that's where it started, because we had all the cassettes with the Brenda Fassis,
Oh, wow.
the Michael Jacksons, the Dolly Partons. So I was exposed to a lot of global culture at a young age through the video cassettes and all that kind of content. And then later on, I started to listen to music and seeing my father dancing to like Franco music. My mom always really loved country music, and then my sisters always loved like 90s R&B. So my family became a very huge influence in my music taste. And if you think about the R&B music, the African music, the country music, it's very versatile and broad. So I think even growing up into myself and to becoming the publicist I am today, it got to a point where I had to have a conscious decision. And like I just had to tell myself, like, I now want to listen to more African music, because there's a lot of Western music that was infiltrated in Kenya and the rest of the continent.
Yeah.
Even now with the Afrobeat and all that movement, even Amapiano, even in South Africa, it was not always when African music was this big.
Absolutely.
So I think I believed in the African music before it became this big. And that's why
You did, though.
I did. And that's why we were talking before, and I was saying, like, I've been to Nigeria and I was in the trenches before Lagos went international.
Yeah.
You know, when everyone was just trying to put out their stuff. And I love to see all the artists, you know, hustling, putting out records, having labels and all that. So I believed in Africa so much, and African music, and I really wanted to see this movement, and I'm so happy I'm alive to see this happen.
Yeah.
You know, I'm alive to see Amapiano become a global thing. You know, now they were talking about it at a festival in Europe, that last summer was an Amapiano summer in the entire Europe. I'm like, wow, Africa is now influencing, you know, global sounds or European or, you know, American sounds. I love that. So I think the point at which I made that decision was the turning point of my life and career. I didn't know it would be, but that was the turning point. Because even on my blog, I've been blogging for around 15 years. I used to do blogs of Donald Jones, I don't know who, Tony Braxton. And then one day I woke up and said, why am I, you know, who's writing about Kenyan music or African music? So it got to a point I just stopped doing non-African content. And even recently somebody asked me, like, I never saw you guys post something on the Golden Globes or something on Anyiko PR or something. I told them, if you're very keen, you follow our pages, you'll realize we don't post any non-African content. We might post it maybe, or Lupita is doing something because she's Kenyan and she's global or whatever, but we really stick to the continent, to the African artists, because there's so many, and so many people still haven't been discovered, still haven't gotten the opportunity. So I have nothing against people who are not in Africa, but my focus is Africa, African music, and particularly artists and creatives and those who are rising and those who are the future of tomorrow. Yeah.
You know what I love about talking with people who are passionate about what they do? It almost reignites your love for the things that they love. You know, because you don't often think about, you know, who is committing to really driving this narrative, you know, this music and culture narrative, and who were at the forefront. I mean, I remember in South Africa, we didn't play a lot of Nigerian music for the longest time. And specifically, Thibaut Touch on his show on Metro FM started doing like an hour of Afrobeats, you know, where he would either play a mix with Nigerian music or he would play some Nigerian songs. And I will forever credit Thibaut Touch for really being at the forefront of bringing that genre to South Africa, because South Africans were very much about South Africa for the longest time. And even now when I look at how much Nigerian music is played in South Africa, it is one of those moments even for me where I look back and I think, wow, you know,
who knew?
Who knew?
You know,
who knew
none of us knew it. None of us saw this coming. You know, we wanted this to happen.
Yeah.
We're not able to interview something. So there's a lot of barriers, gatekeepers.
Yes. Speaking of barriers, actually, I want to know at the beginning when you started, when you came into PR, what were the barriers to entry like at the time? What were the challenges in getting into the space? Because I feel like it's one of the areas now where it's like the lowest barriers to entry. It feels like everyone is a PR person. If I have one journalist number, I can start a PR company. What was it like when you started and you came into the PR space?
You know, the thing is, I was doing PR for a long time, but I didn't know I was doing PR.
Oh, wow.
So I had been already doing PR, I don't know, for 6 years, and I didn't even know that was what I was doing, because I started as a journalist, and then I started helping my friends doing PR stuff, but I didn't know I was doing PR stuff, because to me, I was like helping my friends, and yeah, I love to write, and I know journalists here and there, and yeah, I can help them write their profile, and I can book some interviews for them. So I didn't actually know that was PR. And after a while, after 5 years, you know, we sat down with some friends, with some colleagues I'd been working with, and they said, we thought about everything you do. You do a lot of things, but we think the main thing you've been doing is PR. So we're going to brand you our publicist, or our publicist.
Wow.
And before that, I hadn't even heard of any publicist. And it's so crazy, because we're not talking a very long time ago.
Yes.
I mean, we're just talking around 7-8 years ago. But you can imagine, 7-8 years ago, I had never had a publicist. You would never hear the word a publicist. Who is a publicist?
Yeah.
So I think even now I'm doing a lot of work explaining who a publicist is and what a publicist does, because some people still get it twisted and say, or are you doing publishing or stuff like that? So
really,
there's low barriers of entry, but then there was literally nothing in our industry right here in Kenya. You know, anyone who wanted to do PR was aspiring to work with all these renowned PR agencies. That was it. Like, you couldn't stand on your own to do PR. How would you do that? Like, how would you even think of doing that? You know, everyone had to go work at Gina Dean. So Gina Dean is...
yes, she's been big.
You know Gina Dean.
Yes.
You know, she's a PR queen. And everybody looks up to Gina Dean. Everybody wants to be Gina Dean, but no one is thinking, how did Gina Dean become
Gina
who
Dean?
She is?
Yeah.
And because she had and has this big agency, everybody thinks, okay, I have to be Gina Dean, I have to have this big agency.
Yes.
But you cannot wake up one day and have an agency. So I think for me was the realization that I can't be a Gina Dean. I'm not a Gina Dean. I cannot have a Gina Dean agency. But what can I have, or what can I do with what I have, the talent I have, the passion I have, the networks I have, the artists I have? What can I do with that? And so that's how I decided to continue just working with what I had myself, my networks, that was my net worth.
Yeah.
My network was my net worth. And that's what led me to this seat today. You know, the story I'm telling, because I literally had nothing. There was no one to look up to. There was no place I could fit in. So I just created my own space, and then it became a thing.
Yeah.
And then now there's so many publicists and so many independent agencies like mine, and it's just beautiful to see that growth, to see that space, that now when people are in university, they'll be like, I want to be a publicist. I get a lot of those questions, but before there was nothing like that.
When you say you did not fit into any of the spaces that existed at the time, what do you mean by that? You know, there were big agencies that were doing PR. What is it that you saw in those spaces that you felt like, that is not my space?
What I saw in the spaces that I felt wasn't my space, or the place for me to be, was the fact that they just do corporate work. But not representing the creative sector, the creative industry, and the artists. There was no representation of artists. They could have been doing some here and there, but not on a big scale. And so artists did not have support from them, yet I feel like they could have supported the artists. Because the idea of becoming a publicist before getting to know about Maria came about from my TV job, because I used to interview artists. But then every day I would have artists coming for interviews, didn't know what to say, didn't even actually know that they had the biggest song in the country, didn't have bios. were always late, didn't have managers or publicists. So I already started having an idea that I could be the person who would be helping these artists brand themselves, carry themselves, to help them to know what to say at interviews and stuff like that. So that's where the idea came. But then I thought they're already agencies, like PR agencies, they would be doing that.
Yeah.
Why are they not doing that? Like in my entire 7-year career on TV, there was not one artist who ever came to an interview with a PR person from an agency. Never, never, ever.
Wow.
Never. So, but then now, working in PR and, you know, knowing a lot of people in the industry and stuff, I hardly know any artist who actually now doesn't have a publicist and a manager.
Yes.
So there's literally been a lot of change in the past 10 years. Like, so 10 years from backwards was like night, and now we're living in the daytime.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Do you remember the first Kenyan artist that called you looking for PR?
Yes, I can never forget.
Tell
and
me.
Again, this is this South African? Okay, so I remember two distinct artists. So maybe I could tell both the stories. So one is South African, is KO.
Oh, really?
Yes.
What year was that?
That was 2015.
Wow.
Or 2015. 2015 or 2016, I think 2015.
Yeah.
That was KO, and he was brought over to me by his manager then, who I think they're still working with now, Sauti
Sol.
And these people were so graceful and nice to me. And those were still those days when I didn't know what I was doing, you know. So they came about, they were like, yeah, we want some PR and stuff. And then I would finish the work and they'd be like, so how much do we need to pay you? Because we need to pay. I was like, I don't know. And they're like, what do you mean you don't know? Like, you have to be paid. Like, you must have spent, you know, your time. And I had even part of a team member who was helping me. But I was like, I don't know. And they were just like, we think you should be paid this amount of money. And they gave me so much money. And I was like, oh my God, I could be making money.
Yeah.
All the artists I've been doing stuff for. And I always say, I don't know, you just go. And they say, okay, bye. You know, a lot of artists did that, but they were like, no, we're going to give you this money. So I will never forget that. And then the other opportunity I got, these are the fast paying opportunities, you know, was through Chin, who put us together.
Yes.
And he brought me his artist. Who was the artist? Who was it? Who was the artist? Now he's singing gospel music. I can't remember his name.
I feel like I can see the face, but I can't remember the name.
He looks almost like Flavor, but it's not Flavor.
Yes.
Links.
Yes.
Links.
Yeah,
Links.
yes. I literally was seeing his face,
Links.
but I couldn't remember the
name. He was
name.
a really nice artist and guy. And I remember after that, again, they were like, so how much do we pay you? I was like, I don't know. And I remember Chin was like, girl, I can't bring you clients.
I can literally hear him.
Chin is like, I can't recommend you as the publicist. And then you're like, I don't know. You need to get your house together, you know. So those were the very first.
And do you think having those two artists pay you the amount of money that they paid you changed the way that you saw the runway for your business and the potential for growth?
Oh my God, it changed everything. It changed everything because at that point, you know, I was just still struggling. And then it's not making sense. You're like, I'm out here, you know, everybody knows me. Everybody's like, oh, you're the publicist to the stars and you're doing amazing. But inside, I'm sad because I'm so broke. I can't support my mom. You know, I'm living in Nairobi right now. My mom is in the village. I want to support her because she spent so much, and she was a single mom. My father died when I was younger. You know, she spent everything. She took loans to take me to university. And here I am, kind of famous. But I can't even help my mom. I can't even send her a little money for farming. So it was always a struggle. And it was a big struggle, you know, trying to make ends meet.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I like to hang out with artists. I like to help them and stuff. But, hey, who's going to help me pay my rent?
Yeah.
You know, I was, like, just living with my relatives, with my sister. So when that happened, I think it really made me wake up, smell the coffee, and start taking everything seriously. So start taking it seriously, like, oh, it's not like I do this for fun.
Yeah.
I do it because I love to do it, but I'm not doing it for fun. I'm doing it as work.
Yeah.
You know, I now try to make it a profession, to be professional about it, you know, to show up on time, to show up a certain way. Because even in the beginning, I didn't used to show up a certain way. Sometimes people would say, she's the publicist to go to, and then I'll just show up, I don't know, with my slacks or something. It's not like, what's happening? Like, you don't look like the person they said you were. So
Yeah.
I started to learn all these kind of things, and that's some of the lessons I tell to the artists. Like, this is a business, you know. When you're showing up a certain place, you have to look a certain way. It's the same way certain jobs, like that they do 9 to 5, they have to wear, I don't know,
a suit and tie.
A suit and tie.
Yeah.
So even for us, you don't have to wear a suit and tie, but you have to be presentable to a certain extent. So I started learning all the ropes of the trade from there onwards, and started knowing, like, someone else could pay me, another artist could pay me. If this artist paid me, then other artists could pay me, because all the artists would come and tell you, no, we don't have money, we don't get paid, and yeah, we're broke. So I was like, okay, fine, you're all broke, I'm just gonna help you. And it's just like, when it continues to be like that, everybody would come and say the same thing.
Yeah.
And then you start to exist in this space where you believe that in the work I do couldn't be paid for.
Yeah.
And there's no money in this.
Yeah.
And that's the quagmire so many people and young people continue to be in. When you're passionate at something, you keep doing it, no one is paying you, and you feel like, I guess that's how it is.
Yeah.
Until that you get that one opportunity, you're like, oh, actually, I could have gotten paid.
Yeah.
So I am a strong believer that it's important to, pay creatives and pay, someone for their time.
Yeah.
And I'm thankful to this artist for, paying me, even when I did not know what my value was.
Yeah.
Even when I didn't have an invoice to share over to them, but they insisted to pay me.
That's incredible. I wonder, how did that change your relationship with the artists who are local and who kept saying they don't have money and can you help them? How did you manage that shift? Because I imagine now you have these 2 artists that are even outside Kenya who have paid you, but you still had these Kenyan artists, I imagine, who were still calling you. How did you make that shift and transition to, okay, I will help you, but you're going to need to pay me? And how much did you lose through the transition, and how much did you gain?
Okay, that's a really wonderful business question. I love that. So first of all, I made a lot of mistakes around that period, because I received some money from these South African artists and Nigerian artists, and was like, okay, I should be receiving money from every artist. And at that point in my career, I hadn't been in the industry long enough to also acknowledge or be able to review the different struggles different artists have in different markets. And for instance, in Nigeria, it's a norm that a lot of the artists have people who are sponsoring them. So you could have individual artists who are not signed to labels, but have the financial backing.
Yeah.
That happens a lot in Nigeria. Just rich people, just rich friends, but that's not a culture we have, I don't know, in South Africa, but this side of Africa, East Africa, I mean, it happens, but not as much as it happens in Nigeria. So
I get it.
It took me a while to come to realize, like, it will be easier for a Nigerian artist to put together $500 than a Kenyan artist to put $500, because essentially the Nigerian artist is putting up more than that, because they flew to come here, they're staying at a hotel for 1 week. Like, if you do that budget, it's already like over $2,000.
Yeah.
While a Kenyan artist will not even not a Kenyan artist, but I would say as a Kenyan artist who's starting out wouldn't even be able to afford $2,000 just to shoot a video. So in the beginning, when I started demanding, like, I cannot do your work for free, or you have to pay me this amount, that kind of put off a lot of the Kenyan artists. And it was almost as if I was only working with Sauti Sol because we had already been working together for long.
Yes.
And non-Kenyan artists. So much to a certain point where it was almost like the Anyiko PR brand was a Nigerian brand, because at that point, I think the South African market also hadn't opened up the way it has opened up right now. And there are several things that happened to that facilitated the opening up of the South African industry, from, you know, Coke Studio happening here, and some South African artists coming down to East Africa recording with them. And then just, I think social media just blew out of proportion, and now things started trending in other regions, and this artist started seeing, oh, I'm trending in Kenya, I should go there and do stuff. Like, those kind of things influenced the opening of the industry. But before that, it was just like business was coming from West Africa and Sauti Sol.
Okay.
West Africa and Sauti Sol. West Africa and Sauti Sol. So it had to come to a point where I told myself, like, the motto of my company, the vision is to, we make African stars. You know, we connect audiences in unique ways, but are we really connecting audiences in unique ways with this kind of, you know, strategy that we have, with this kind of artists that we're picking? I felt like we were not. You know, it can't be, I'm only working with this one band and then the rest are like West African or something. So I had to change the business strategy. We had to change, you know, the rate cards to suit different artists from different countries, and not just different artists from different countries, but even artists and their background and context.
Yeah.
So it could be a Kenyan artist who's signed to a label, or independent and not signed to a label, or an artist who just started. You cannot treat the artist who just is releasing their first album with the same artist who's releasing their 5th album and who's been touring the world and stuff. So we no longer have a rate card, and we had a rate card for a long time. And, you know, the rate card is so stuck up. It's like, this is it. You have to do a media tour for 5 days.
Yeah.
So sometimes an artist would tell you, but I don't even have 5 days. I want to do 3 days. And I would say, no, we only do 5 days. Sometimes someone say, oh, I want to do 1 day. I'm like, we do just 5 days. So it was so stuck up. And I feel like there was a period where I was so stuck up. The business was so stuck up. And someone told me that maybe that was an important period also to kind of set the business boundaries.
Yes.
Your personal boundaries with, you know, certain institutions, certain people, certain industries. I don't wish to go back to that point, but I'm happy we are not as stuck up anymore, because now when clients come, artists come, we custom make everything for everyone.
That's powerful.
It's like, where are you from? Where is your financial backing coming from? Are you a new artist? So this is the value we can give you. How much money you have? You have $100, you have $50. This is what we're going to do with your $50.
Oh, that's so powerful.
So now we're able to work with every artist. And now we're also additionally able to support the new artists more. So they could come to us with a very low budget, but there are certain things, a certain infrastructure that we already have that can benefit them.
Yeah.
Yeah, like we have like dope photographers, videographers. So sometimes we can also give them that as a bonus. You know, you need to show your brand, you need to show your face, you need to be seen at these places. We're going to give you nice pictures because we have a nice photographer in-house. And you don't have to pay for that. And I'm happy that we can support in one way or another. It's little support here and there, but it makes a difference for them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Out of all the artists that you've had the pleasure of working with, and this is going to be a controversial question, who is, I'm not going to say who's your favorite, who have you had the most memorable highs with?
I think it would just be definitely Sauti Sol.
I think so too.
Yeah, we've really had great times, especially touring Europe. You know, back in the day when the African artists were not touring Europe yet.
Yeah.
So that was nice, that was fun. And then just being in Amsterdam for a long time, and you're now broke and just walking down the streets and buying chips and mushrooms and weed and all that. Like, we really had some nice times. You know, winning the MTV award, Best Group in Africa, when I was still working with them, was a huge thing, because I felt like, oh, finally I can see what has happened from the work of my hands. So I'm happy I was able to see part of that success. You know, dancing with Obama when he came here, and they were also dancing with our president at the time. That was a very powerful moment, and I shot the video and put it out, and it went viral. So I really had many highs with them. Yeah. I think very few lows. Mostly we were just always happy.
I love that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they are such an exceptional group, and it is true. I don't think anyone who was in the music scene when Sauti Sol blew up can can think of Sauti Sol without thinking about you. You know, you were always there, somewhere in the background, talking to one of them, taking pictures of them, posting stuff about them. I know that I was exposed to Sauti Sol through you, particularly on your social media and how much you shared of them and their music. And that was the first time. Even the Dancing with the President, I think I saw on your page as well. And I think those were really exceptional moments for, I think, you know, East Africa as a whole when it comes to the music scene.
Yeah, when you think about it that way, like I never thought about it that way, but when you think about it that way, because a lot of artists and bands and music groups, they say that Sauti Sol paved the way for them. So I guess in the process of Sauti Sol having paved the way for them, there must have been some work that I put in and we put in together to make that happen. Yeah.
And when you went through this phase, right? And I'm going to call it a phase because I think there were a couple of transitions. You start out and you're not charging anything. Then you have these two artists from outside Kenya who pay you money. You start to become a bit snobbish around what it is that, and I think it's so powerful that you can acknowledge and identify that for yourself and recognize it as a business challenge that you went through, but maybe also a necessary moment for you to then establish what the next journey was, the next destination or the next journey was going to look like. At which point did you make the decision, if you did make the decision, that you were going to navigate other markets outside of Kenya? You know, because I can see the passion that you have about the country and the artists that are here, but was there a intentional decision to get into other markets, or was the drive, the curiosity about the entire culture?
Yeah, there was a very intentional decision around 2017 or 2018. It's interesting that you're asking me this now and I'm sitting with you now, because only yesterday I found a tweet from 2018 that was put up by a TV station that interviewed me and asked me, what is your vision? And I responded and said the vision is to work in different African countries with different artists every 2 months or at least every month. That was in 2018, and that came to life. Like I said that was the vision then. So clearly it was something I wanted to do then and I wasn't doing it then. And it's something I started working on consciously. So I started out by actually, you know, flying myself out to different countries and meeting with the people in the industry, the stakeholders, the media people, the artists, you know, interviewing some of them for my traveling TV show, which I called VIP Access, which is on YouTube. And just kind of setting the ground and, you know, collecting contacts and trying to find out, how can I work with you? Would you ever want to work with me in our region, or would you want me to support you here? I also was telling the artists, like, if there's an opportunity for me to work here, I will not mind coming to work here, because I went to Rwanda to work at some point. I worked in Uganda, I worked in Tanzania. So it was a very strategic decision, and I think I took that decision mainly because even after I felt like I opened up the company more to allow and accommodate more Kenyans and artists to work with the company, I felt like there was still, it was still difficult to make ends meet, because Kenyan artists were still just not getting to PR like that. And a lot of them still couldn't afford it like that. So it still couldn't be something I felt that would be able to sustain my business. It wasn't able. And so I had to ask myself, like, I have this African dream, this Pan-African dream to unite the continent in different ways. How can I do it without only relying on Kenya? How can I do it for East Africa? How can I work with the other people from the region? And maybe if I'm able to work with the other people from other regions, even the Kenyans will see and want to do the same. Like, if you saw me succeed with a Ghanaian, why wouldn't you want to succeed with me? I'm Kenyan, I'm in your town. So that was the plan, and that's what actually opened all the doors for Anyiko PR, even in Kenya. We had to start doing stuff around to start getting known here, or to start not getting known, but kind of getting trusted.
The credibility.
The credibility. Yes.
Okay. And here's another thing that I've noticed about your journey, and I'm going to maybe go back to some of the shifts that took place in 2020, you know, and we spoke about it earlier, and the real estate in terms of media shrinking, right? Having less and less publications, seeing people really struggle to produce results as just publicists, and how you are constantly able to pivot, because fundamentally I think you have a deep understanding of what the objective is and the how can continue to shift.
Yeah.
I think it was groundbreaking for you to have VIP access at the time that you had it, because isn't that everything that's happening now, as the bigger publications die down, as the online space starts to grow? You started VIP access way back, even when like the bigger publications were big.
Yeah.
What was the motivation for that?
So for me, the motivation for VIP access honestly was just missing TV, because I come from the background of TV. I'm a former TV girl. You know, I spent my 7 years, every day, every weekend talking to artists, interviewing them, every week going to events. So I missed that terribly.
Yeah.
I really missed it. And then I still had people emailing me saying, oh, are you still on the TV, or are you going to come on TV? So I just had to start something to calm my soul.
Yeah.
My soul was not at peace.
Yeah.
I'm not at peace if I don't do those kind of things. Like if I'm not able to sit down with artists and be able to interview them, I'm not really happy, because I'm in PR by default. What I would have loved to do would just be the journalistic work, just like writing stories about artists and creatives, and maybe travel stories and maybe features and stuff like that. But the problem with the field of media, it's just a dying field. You know, now after COVID, people are being laid off.
Yeah.
You know, are being paid half their salaries. Until now, there's still people who have not been paid salaries for months. So it would just not make sense to me that I'm trying to be a broadcaster at a media institution that will not pay me for the hard work that I've been putting in for all these years. So I have to be independent, but then I have to still do my business in PR and still make sure I'm happy as a journalist. So for me, it was always like to have that balance. And that's what gives me my balance, is I have to do all the things I love to do.
Yeah. When you think about VIP access and 2023, 2022, 2021, the opportunities that has brought for you.
My goodness.
When you connect the dots in that particular area, what has been the epiphany for you? Because I just feel like that's what a lot of people are kind of understanding that we need to be doing. And when I say a lot of people, it's not just the consumers of the content and the music and the culture. It's also the people who are the big shots in big organizations who are now starting to understand that the most powerful voice is with the creators. Right? It's with the people who are interfacing with the culture on a day-to-day basis, you know, interfacing with the fashion, the food, the musicians, who fundamentally understand the challenges and the narrative of not only the musicians, but the people that support them as well. I mean, when you talk about opportunities like shooting for E, you know, I can't imagine that would have been a reality would you not have been doing that kind of work already.
Would not have been a reality had I not been doing that work. But the thing is, when you get into the work you love to do, you don't get into it so that it gives you other opportunities or something. And I think that's where a lot of the new content creators are getting it twisted. When it's like, I want to get views, or I want to get known, or I want to have the interview that has the most, that goes viral.
Yeah.
I have to post it at this time so I go viral. No. For me and for us, it was never really like that. It was just like, these are very interesting artists and who are doing an amazing job, and I'd like to speak to them and find out what was their journey to where they are today. And unbeknownst to me, some of those interviews I've been doing over the years have been seen by people I didn't even know knew me or were following me. And then they come to you and they say, oh, we've been following you from 2016 and we love the work you do. Would you please interview artists for us for E? I'm like, me.
Yeah.
But then I just was speaking to my mom saying how powerful like digital and social media is, because we post the things we like and it makes us feel good, makes me feel good. But I don't think like someone is seeing this and is going to get me the opportunity of a lifetime.
Yeah.
Because having to work with E and interview artists from across Africa is the dream. Like, that's exactly what I wanted to do. That's what my company wanted to do in terms of promo.
Yes.
But then in terms of broadcast, like, that was my dream. Like, I imagine that TV girl, you know, from 7 years ago, if I would have ever been told, like, one day you get an opportunity to travel to Ghana, you know, to Nigeria and do all these things. Like, I would never even think that would happen. But that would have been my dream then. And it was a huge dream for me. And now it's come to life. So the question is, what next?
Yeah, the question is really, what next? When you think about everything that's happened, you know, I don't believe that navigating success, particularly in areas where you don't have a blueprint, right? And you're figuring things out as you go, does not come with its challenges. When you think about your entire journey, what do you believe has been the biggest sacrifice, whether it paid off or not, whether it became an opportunity or not, whether it was fundamentally a significant loss of something about yourself or your environment or the space that you were in? What pops up when you think about a big sacrifice that you made, but maybe you kind of see how it led you to where you are today?
Okay, very, very good question. My God, my God, my God. So the biggest sacrifice I've made all my life is dedicate all my time and every one of my resources to artists. I would always be up until morning, many nights, you know, just like writing press releases, reviewing music, doing stuff like other stuff that was not even directly related to artists I was working with, like reviewing music on my blog. Like that work takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
Like now I didn't even do the reviews for last year and I'm itching.
Yeah.
And now I'm gonna be out of town for like 2 days and I'm planning like just one day to be locked somewhere just to finish reviewing all the music from last year because I haven't done it. But I'm not doing this for any artist. I'm just doing it because I love to do it. But all the time I spent doing that alienated me from my friends, from my family, and even my family, they were always used to say, you shouldn't be staying up at night all the time doing stuff for your artist or doing this kind of stuff. Like, you should at least sleep. You know, my mom used to be like, oh, you didn't sleep? You've been reviewing music till morning. And I remember many times I'd be very fatigued, tired, but then when I put out the blog post, at least like all the music reviews, I'd be very happy.
Yeah.
And then I met a DJ who was playing at an event I was hosting last weekend, and he said, oh, I couldn't wait to tell you a story. It's like we kind of met, but we haven't met. I said, what's the story? And he said, I have a sister who lives in America, and she called me once in the middle of the night in 2016, and she's like, Anyiko reviewed you guys. Oh. And I was like, who are you? And she's like, oh, I used to be in this hip-hop group, and you even compared us to Camp Mula.
Oh my God.
Which was another dope music group. And then I said, oh, now I remember you. And this is someone I didn't know, never met. He's no longer with the group. So those kind of moments when it happens like that one artist says, oh, but at least she reviewed this. Because I feel like that way I play my part.
Yeah.
You know, to move the continent forward, to move our African storytelling forward, everybody has to play their part. When Africans become frustrated and say, oh, people don't get it, what role are you playing? There's a very distinct role I've always been playing, that I'm telling the story from my eyes. I'm reviewing the music I like. I'm putting out the artists I'm exposed to and I believe in them. And I'm very happy to know I played my part and I continue playing my part. But it wasn't without sacrifice. Like, and until now, it happens. You know, I have late nights in the office. I have a lot of meetings. And even at home, we're discussing it with my husband and Nani. And they were saying, like, he's always home and you're not at home. And I'm like, but I try to be home. It's like, just accept that you're never here and it's fine. But even now, I'm still not as at home as much as I'd want to be with my daughter. And it's a sacrifice that I'm sacrificing for all these artists, you know.
It's very interesting that you bring up your daughter, because that was my next question. Like, you're a mom now, right?
Yes.
How has that impacted your urgency around the work that needs to be done? Because you're extremely passionate about this vision that you have of what is possible. How do you juxtapose that against the vision you potentially might have for who you want your daughter to become and the role that you might need to play for her to get there? Or do these two worlds come together, or have they come together for you?
Well, another really brilliant question. So it's really has made me become more authentic to the work I do and how I approach it. Because before I was talking to you and I was saying, like, sometimes to be in my position, you have to show face, or just say some stuff for the sake of saying some stuff, or because people expect you to be a certain way. So sometimes I would play that game, but not anymore. I can't do it anymore like that. Like, I really can't. Now what you see is what you get. Like, you only
But you've
see
paid
me.
your dues, though. You've paid your dues.
That's
I don't
what-
want anyone listening to this thinking they can come in to any industry and be like that. I think there is a way that once you experience teaches you how you need to show up in particular spaces. And I think the respect that people have for you, I mean, even when you're just talking to the crew, I can see in their eyes who you are, right? And the love that they have for you, the lives you've impacted, you know, not only of the artists, but the people that work behind the scenes that you continue to call on, and how their lives are shaped by the opportunity that you've created for them. So I think you've paid your dues. I think you've really paid your dues when it comes to that.
I hope so. And that's what my hubby says. Like, now you can afford to, like, sometimes not show up because I have a baby at home. So I just can't afford to be everywhere because I need to be seen like before.
Yeah.
Because before, if you were this publicist, upcoming publicist, you had to be at every festival,
Yes.
every event. If any artist was in town, you have to be there to exchange contacts and I don't know what. Like, but now I'm comfortable even not, you know, being present everywhere that I cannot be. My team might be there, or if I miss to see you, we can do a Zoom call. But before it wasn't even like that, you know, everybody was like, I have to see you, I have to come to your office. But like you say, like, I have paid my dues to a certain extent.
Yeah.
And sometimes your work now starts to speak for you, like speaks for myself. And I can say, I've worked with this and this artist, like you can actually ask them and they'll say, that is true.
Yeah.
But in the beginning, I hadn't worked with all these people. So, you know, we have to see your face. We have to see your face every day for this 1 week that we're here for a media tour. So now I can afford to show up for one interview and the rest my team is going to do. So I'm happy I'm where I am, and I hope to be able to show up more out there. But I'm trying to also be at home with my daughter as much as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I've really enjoyed, like, I feel like I've set in a masterclass around what needs to happen for the culture to shift. Not only that, but the commitment, right? The work that happens behind the scenes that no one ever sees, and the energy that you put into everything that goes out for these artists and their reputation. And we just get to see, you know, the front end of it, but the amount of work that takes place in the back end, and how you've committed to it for so many years.
Nobody understands, and I don't think they'll ever understand. For all the years I worked with Sauti Sol, even maybe they don't know, every release they had, I never slept for 2 days. I never slept 1 week because I opened all their social media pages. I used to post everything. They didn't have any social media person until like 2016 when I hired the person who they have right now. So how did they blow up, and how were they such a big brand? Who was doing all that?
Yeah.
And how do you do that without, and you sleep? You actually cannot when you have like fans all over the world. But the thing is, at that stage, I actually didn't know anything like support.
Yeah.
I didn't actually know like you could have 5 people doing this job. You know, it was just me, and it was like, it's my job and I have to do it, and I can't sleep. I can't wink.
Yeah.
I never used to sleep. I never used to wink.
Wow.
For 2 days.
Wow.
Every time a release was coming out, every video, every song, I was there, posting, commenting. Until we were trending on Twitter, like #1.
Yeah.
Then I take a nap. I'll sleep for like 2 hours,
My
and I'll come
goodness.
back. That's what I used to do. Yeah. And now when I start to see like when I see this list like top artists on YouTube and stuff, and I don't see them, now, I know why they're not the top now.
Yeah.
Because someone is sleeping on their job.
Because someone is sleeping on their job. My final question, and it's so perfect, you know, it's a segue from everything that you just explained. What do you think we need now to move us forward?
Who is we?
All of us,
okay,
as a continent. Are we taking ownership? Is our paperwork right? Are there patents, you know, around, you know, all of that jargon that now I think we've been catapulted into the global business conversation when it comes to creativity. And I often wonder as I look at, you know, the continent navigate this dialogue with the world, whether we sit in a position of power or we are still being accepted into this room where people are not trending, but they're allowing us to come in because we're trending.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. That's a really wonderful and deep question. So what do we need to do right now? I think we need to go back to our roots. I think the African mentality is slowly shifting to we are global, or we are now global, or everyone has to go global, or that is the measure of success. Every artist is now looking at, I don't know, Burna Boy filled this space, and Wizkid did this, and Davido did this in London, and now it's just like everybody wants to attain that. And even when you look at social media now, a lot of the big artists around Africa, from South Africa, from Nigeria, are touring the world, you know, meeting all these designers, wearing all these designers' clothes and stuff like that. And so all the younger artists coming up, that's what they want. They're like, I want to see to wear what Tiwa is wearing. I want to be there with I don't know who. I want to do this. And we're starting to forget all the work all these major artists did in the continent before they blew internationally. So I think we all need to now shift our focus back to the continent and continue working in the continent, making moves in the continent, collaborating cross continental collaborations to get more of that global attention. But it's not to go all of us to London or all of us to the American tour or whatever. Like, remember, you know, Wizkid and DJ Maporisa, all the work they did.
That was a big song. Those were big songs.
And so many things that he was producing for him way before. So if you look critically at the journey all these artists have taken on the continent, it led them to where they are. But all these other new artists, they want to skip.
Skip that part.
All the top artists in Kenya or South Africa or Tanzania, like, they are looking to have all these international collaborations or shows and stuff, but nobody now wants to do the local stuff or African stuff as they used to. It's not such a thing now, like, oh, I want to collaborate with this artist. They're there, but not as big as it used to be. So I would wish for us to have that yearning that we want to collaborate with each other more and do more stuff in the continent. Like, publicists, go to, you know, South Africa, go to Ghana, go to Nigeria and promote your artists more than you want to go to, like, London and do stuff. So I think there's so much room to do so much work on the continent, and we need to get back to that.
I love that.
Yeah.
I mean, every single person I've spoken to, I always feel this resonating energy, because it's the passion, right? It's the passion that shines through, that makes me think about, you know, what our role as an organization is in these narratives, and where, you know, the women fit in, and also just highlighting the power and the impact that women have in all these diverse and multiple industries. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for everything. Thank you so much for putting all of this together. Thank you so much for picking up my calls every time I call, for listening in on the dreams, for the encouragement. You have been very consistent in just who you are. Nothing else but really just showing up as who you are. And it's so deeply appreciated. I don't think I have the words to articulate how deep the appreciation is. And to just have an opportunity to spend time with your people and see how they navigate the space around you. It's a beautiful affirmation of the work that you've done and you continue to do.
Thank you so much. But before you go, I just want to say thank you also so much for everything that you are, for creating this beautiful platform for women, Agenda Women. but it's beautiful, but so empowering. Like I follow it to the letter. Everything, every conversation, every opportunity, even some that are for South African women, I'm like, I love this. And I wish we'd have a platform like this that will give opportunities to the Kenyan women. And I'm so happy you're now in Kenya and Agenda Women has gone global. And I wish you all the best. And thank you for everything you do for us.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate it.